Guess who's back? Back again. Mikey's back. Tell a friend. Hey everybody, here with another video for you guys today. And today we're going to take a left turn on the Mikey Productions channel and going to try something completely new that I've never done before. So, and what we're going to do here is we're going to rank the Friday the 13th films from worst to best, the entire franchise. So let's get down to it after the opening here. Stay tuned. Okay, everybody. As some of you may know, I'm a pretty big horror movie fan. And so I decided to try some new things on the channel. And one of the things I'm going to do is start reviewing and ranking some of my favorite film franchises. With the new Friday the 13th, the game coming to the Nintendo Switch, which I will be having some gameplay footage of that when that arrives on my channel as well. So I thought I would kind of kick things off and get people warmed up by ranking the films as I see them. Let's kick the list off with number 12, Jason X. Yes, that's right. Jason X is my least favorite film in the series, and it's the only one that I think is bad, if I'm honest. While I do find it entertaining as a whole, you know, it has some aspects and some kills that I do think are pretty cool, and I don't completely like hate or detest the film. I mean, it exists, and I do watch it on very rare occasion. It's definitely my least favorite, and the one that I do think is the worst of the entire series, bar none. And some of my reasonings for that are I don't like any of the characters in this film, which that's a big thing for me, is whether I care about the characters outside of the killer. If I don't like them, or they annoy me, or I'm just not emotionally invested in them, then I'm not going to like that film as much. And this film definitely suffers for that. I just don't care about any of these characters, and I think they're some of the worst written and worst acted of the entire franchise. Gonna create some controversy here, but I'm not a big fan of Uber Jason either. I don't like the way he looks. I prefer, I mean, I don't think Evil needs an upgrade. I'm sorry. I liked him better the original way. But having said that, it is a moderately entertaining film, and I don't dislike the way Jason looked before he became Uber Jason. When he was regular Jason, it wasn't a bad look for him. It wasn't the best either, but it was decent. One of the biggest drawbacks for me is it feels like a cheap movie you would see on the Sci-Fi Channel on a random Saturday afternoon. It just has a cheapness quality to it that I don't feel any of the other films in the series really have that. While you can make the argument that a lot of the Friday the 13th movies are quote-unquote B movies, I think Jason X is the only one that actually feels and looks and acts like a B movie. And that's why it is at the bottom of my list. And then coming in at number 11, we're going to go with Jason Goes to Hell. Now, a lot of people really dislike this movie, and I can't sit here and you know, praise it either, hence why it's ranked number 11. But I don't dislike it. I'm not a Jason Goes to Hell hater. It's just the next weakest in the series, in my opinion. But having said that, I do put it in the marathons when I have the Friday the 13th marathon. If I plan on watching, you know, all the original series or something, I will throw Jason Goes to Hell in, while I very rarely will throw Jason X in. So I do. It is quite a bit of a step up in quality over Jason X, in my opinion. And not just that, I don't dislike the characters in this movie. While I don't think that they're necessarily good, they're definitely not the worst either. Like they're not bad. They're not bad. And Jason's look in this film while a lot of people, that's one of the things people don't like about it, is the body switching stuff, so we don't actually see real Jason a whole lot. When we do see him, he's not bad. You know, he's not my favorite either, but he's not bad. And so it has that going for it. And I also, the whole scene at the end where Freddy's glove comes up and takes Jason's mask, that was just such an iconic scene for me, you know, when this movie came out, because I've been watching it since 1993 when it was new, and that was just like, oh. So, you know, and I waited, you know, on pins and needles for Freddy vs. Jason the whole time, and this movie kind of kick-started that, and so that also plays into the nostalgia of it for me. So there you go. There is Jason Goes to Hell at number 11. And then at number 10, we have Freddy vs. Jason. Now, I might catch some flack for some people for having this film so low, because I know a lot of people really, really like this movie. And I'm going to say I enjoy it. I think it is entertaining, and it has a lot of things that I do like about it. But the things that I don't like about it are what puts it at near the bottom for me. And the number one thing I dislike about this movie are the characters. Outside of Freddy and Jason, the rest of the characters in this film are garbage in my opinion. I don't like them at all. I'm not invested in them, and I don't want them to live. Like, I'd be completely satisfied if they all just died, and then Freddy and Jason just go their merry way. Like, that would have been a completely acceptable ending for me, because they're that bad. I really have to sit and think about which ones are worse, the characters in this film or the ones in Jason X. But either way, they're the two worst characters in all the series. And the final girl, she is my least favorite final girl for either franchise, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. I don't like her. There's something about her just has always bugged me, and I would have rather she died and not lived. I think the film would have ended better. But those are the negatives for it. But the positives are the whole dream sequence when we go to Camp Crystal Lake. I really like that scene a lot, and all the fighting between Freddy and Jason, it's a little over the top at times, but it's not bad. And I mean, and you have Freddy and Jason in it. You know, you don't have Kane Hodder's portrayal of Jason, and a lot of people are down on that, and it is a slight bummer in my opinion. But all things considered, that's not one of the things that I dislike about this movie. Although they should have got Betsy Palmer back for Mrs. Voorhees, that would have been better. But so even though I have this film rated 10th on my list, don't think that I don't like Freddy vs. Jason, because I do. It's good for what it is. It's entertaining. It's just I don't like it as much as the 9 before it, because as I said before, Jason X is the only one on this list that I really don't like. The rest of them I like. It's just you're gonna like some better than others. It's just the way it is. So at number 10 there is Freddy vs. Jason. Now at number 9 we have Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now this is a lot of people's least favorite of the entire series, and I totally get the criticisms on it. I totally do. And people have very valid points on why this movie is not very good. But I'm going to say that what it does do, I like better than what it does wrong. Yes, it should be renamed Jason Takes a Boat or Jason Takes a Cruise, because that's where you spend most of the time, as opposed to in actually Manhattan. But having said that, when he does get to Manhattan, it is pretty awesome from that point until not quite the very end, but because the very end in the sewer when he gets the toxic waste, that's kind of lame also. But that part before the toxic waste, gets Jason, and from when they arrive to that, it's borderline great in my opinion. It's very enjoyable, and it makes that film feel unique. And even the stuff on the cruise ship, I actually liked that scene, those scenes. And as far as the characters in it, while I'm not going to sit here and say they're some of the best, you know, I don't mind Rennie as a final girl, and Sean, he's not a bad final guy. And you know, I liked JJ, the, you know, rock star chick. You know, she was a standout character for me. And then you also have the girl, I forget her name, the blonde girl that everybody hates. You know, so I liked it. I don't mind those characters. I thought that they were pretty decent characters for one of these movies, and they were acted. You know, they had decent acting. It wasn't bad. It wasn't Oscar worthy, but it was what it was. So even though the film is not perfect and does have its issues, I do put it in my marathons. It belongs in the series for me, and it is my 9th favorite film in the franchise. So there you go. So then coming in at number 8 is Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Now, The New Blood, I do really like certain things about this film, but there are other things that I don't like at all. I honestly had to think about whether I liked this film or Jason Takes Manhattan better, because they're about the same in quality, but it comes down to the acting of the other characters. How well those other characters are in these films is a huge thing for me. And I'm sorry, but the characters in Jason Takes Manhattan I care about more than those in this film. You know, not Tina. I'm fine with Tina. I mean, I like her better than Rennie, to be honest. But it's all the rest of them. All the rest of them are just bad, and I don't really care about. My next favorite would be the girl who, you know, was quote unquote the ugly duckling, and then, you know, was trying to get the guy and puts on the makeup. You know, her death scene in like the barn or whatever it was. That's a standout scene in that film. But as far as the rest of them, not really feeling them. Not really feeling it. But the whole Jason versus Carrie thing that him and Tina got going on, I'm fine with that. I got no qualms or quarrels with that. But the actual ending on how Jason is defeated in this film, I think is worse than the ending in Jason Takes Manhattan. And people give the one in Jason Takes Manhattan so much crap, but this one is worse. And so that really bogs it down for me. But I will say the opening montage is probably what pushes this film ahead of Jason Takes Manhattan for me, because I really enjoy that opening montage, you know, at the beginning of the film. I think that is great, and it's even better than the opening montage that's at the beginning of the final chapter. So that's really what boosts this film for me. And so there we are with A New Blood. And then here we are at number 7 with Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, if there's such a thing as a guilty pleasure in the Friday the 13th franchise, you know, I know a lot of people think Jason X is a guilty pleasure, but for me, it is this film. I borderline love Friday Part 5, A New Beginning, and it gets so much hate and so much criticism, and I don't really get it for the most part, other than Jason's not in. Okay, yes, Jason is not in this movie, and if you want to hate it because Jason's not in this movie, I guess you're entitled to that opinion. But Jason's not really in the first one either, and most people seem to be okay with that, which that's one of the things I like about this movie. Is it's kind of a callback to the original at the 5th movie. You know, some people say it's a copycat of the original, but I actually enjoy this movie more than the original, and I debated putting it ahead of the original on my list, but when I talk about that movie, I'll get to why I didn't. But anyways, while there are quite a few of trash throwaway characters in this movie, without a doubt, What it does have going for it is it's the middle chapter of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. So it has Tommy, even though it's the worst portrayed Tommy, in my opinion, but it's still has the character of Tommy. Reggie the Reckless, I love that kid. Reggie the Reckless is my boy. He's one of my favorite Friday the 13th characters of the entire franchise. Pam is a decent final girl. I would say that she's maybe a little bit better than Rennie, but she's right about the Rennie level. Not one of the absolute worst, not one of the absolute better. In the middle of the pack, maybe towards, the back side of the end of the pack, but still in the middle range somewhere. I actually like the storyline that this film introduces, that kind of piggybacks off what happens in part 4, where, you think it might be Tommy, but maybe he's going to be the killer, but it never really outright says he's going to be the killer. I liked what they did there a lot. As a matter of fact, I would have been okay with it if they would have continued that for one more film and then brought back have Jason's Lives be part 7. Like, I'm genuinely interested in what could have happened there. Maybe have Tommy go bad, but then come back to being good in part 6, and then him, and then have the 7th film be what Jason Lives was. Like, I think that could have been a really interesting dynamic, and I wish they would have done that. It could have been cool, but people were so mad that Jason wasn't in it, and I think that has clouded so many people's judgment of this film unfairly. But I mean, Roy is my boy. He makes a good copycat Jason. I think he's a better killer than Pamela was in the first movie, if I'm honest. Now, Pamela might have been a little scarier, a little creepier, but as far as like the kills go, he completely outshines Pamela. And then I gotta say a little bit about the hillbilly lady, the old lady. I forget what her name is off the top of my head, but she's one of my favorite characters in this series too. So between her and Reggie the Reckless and having Tommy Jarvis in it, it's got some quality going for it that outweighs a lot of the dumb teenagers that you don't care about that just get slaughtered. So there you go. At number 7, we have A New Beginning. Then at number 6, I'm gonna go with Friday the 13th, the original. Now, this film is hard to categorize, hard to place, and compared to most other original movies in other series, because as you can see, I got it at number 6. So for me, there's 5 of these movies that are better than the first one, and that just seems so wrong. And I really debated on where to put this movie, because as I said, I actually enjoy part 5 more than part 1, but the reason why I had to put the original first is because of the ending sequence when Pamela arrives and we finally see her all the way to the end of the movie is one of the most iconic and best sequences in the entire Friday the 13th franchise, and I think that is completely carries the whole film, and that's where the respect lies for this film. But everything that happens before then is borderline mediocre. Even like the kills and stuff compared to what comes in the rest of the series is not all that impressive in my opinion. And if we're honest, it's not a very well made horror movie. It's very slow at times, and the acting is not very good. It's just I don't really care about any of the characters in it very much. I mean, yeah, I care about Alice. You get emotionally invested in her, but she's about the only one. The rest of them, they don't really do much for you. And it's just, again, when we talk about, a B film, like the original has more of the B film quality to it than most of the sequels do. It doesn't feel super on par with the rest of the series. But again, that whole ending sequence with Pamela just carries the film, and I do feel that Pamela makes quite a scary serial killer. You know, she bothered me in my younger days more than Jason did. You know, most of the time, like it so much so that I didn't watch the first one as much because Pamela just kind of got to me more than Jason did. Where I enjoyed Jason, where Pamela was a little to me. But anyways, at number 6 we have the original. Now at number 5, I'm gonna go with Friday the 13th remake. Now this might be my most controversial, pick on here, to have the remake in front of the original, and I really went back and forth on that because there's things about the remake that I really don't like a lot, that kind of bother me, but then there's other things that they did really well. So let's start with what I don't like. The things that I don't like, first and foremost, is all of the characters in this film, except for Sam Winchester, I don't care about. They don't do anything for me. Like, they're all just there to be slaughtered by Jason. The one guy, I think his name is Chewie, the Asian gentleman, he would probably be my next favorite character in it. But the rest of them, just like, they're gonna die. I have no emotional attachment. I know a lot of people completely hate Trent and they just want him to die, but you're supposed to want him to die, so that doesn't really, I don't like him either, but I'm supposed to not like him. But some of the other ones you are supposed to like, and it doesn't come across well to me. Whitney, the final girl, I find to be one of the worst final girls of the entire franchise. She just doesn't, I'm not emotionally invested in her. I mean, they try to give her a backstory where you care about her, but I feel like she's just not on film enough. You don't see her enough to really get emotionally invested in her story, other than we're supposed to be emotionally invested. So she falls flat. She's definitely one of my least favorite final girls. So, and then the whole kidnapping that Jason does of Whitney, while I am not a huge fan of that, it just doesn't feel consistent with what we know Jason to be. I can accept it because he thought it was his mother, but the execution of it could have been done better, I suppose. I feel like that part was poorly executed. And so that part it doesn't really sit that well with me. So those are the things I don't like about it. But what I do like in it is it's one of the most intimidating performances of Jason we have ever seen. Like, he feels threatening in this movie, and he feels powerful, and when he's running after you, and some of the kills, like the one where he traps her in the sleeping bag above the fire, I mean, that was amazing. So overall, the Jason that we see in this movie is very, very good, if not great. And people, like to talk about the beginning sequence of it. That's fine. I can get on board with that. I do wish, again, they would have brought back Betsy Palmer. I think that would have made it even better. I know she's rather old now, but I mean, still, that would have really brought home the connection, at least for me. But I like what they did by essentially trying to remake the first 4 films in one film, and I think they almost pulled it off. They were rather close, but it's the problems that I already addressed that keep it from really hitting home. But again, it has Sam Winchester in it, and it's enjoyable. It's actually a good slasher movie. Like, if somebody has never seen a Jason movie, like, it's not a bad one to choose to put on that one. It's really not. And so that is number 5. Then at number 4, we have Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, again, this is one that I really had to think about on where to put it in my rankings, because it is a rather flawed film, and it does feel rather dated. But again, the stuff that it does right, it does really right, and so you're like, where does it go on the list? But I decided to put it at number 4, and my reasoning is, so I'll start with what I do like about it, is that I find this Jason in this movie to be the most eerie out of the entire series, including the remake. In my younger days, when that dream sequence at the end, when he's like knocking on the glass in the window, that genuinely creeped me out. And I didn't watch this movie as much as some of the other ones because it did actually creep me out, where, you know, some of the other ones, like, you'd root for Jason, but in this one, he kind of bugged me, and he ran, and he felt a little bit more real in this one than in some of the other sequels. And then, of course, this is the one where he gets the iconic hockey mask, and so you gotta kind of love it for that, if for no other reason. And the fact that they brought in 2 characters from this movie into Friday the 13th, the game, and Fox and Shelly, makes it seem like it's, you know, it's definitely a more beloved one among the fans also. And so those are all the, you know, reasons why I have it where I do. But what keeps it from being higher on my list is that the same problem a lot of these movies have is I genuinely don't care about the teenagers. I'm a little bit invested in Chris, but again, she is actually probably one of my least favorite final girls also. Like, I mean, I probably like her a little bit better than, like, Rennie, but, you know, even though I don't like Part 7 a whole lot, I do like the character of Tina more than the character of Chris in this movie. She's a little annoying to me, and I don't know, she just doesn't really do it for me a whole lot. And then the rest of the characters, I'm just kind of like, you know. But again, they put Shelly and Fox in the game, so maybe other people disagree with. So, you know, I have a soft spot for Shelly and Fox, I'll say. But as far as the rest of them, I'm just kind of, the bald-headed biker dude, I mean, he's kind of cool, I guess. And that whole scene with the bikers is actually one of the better scenes in the film. But all things considered, it's one of the better entries in the series. It really is. And again, it's probably the creepiest Jason of the entire series. So I like that about it. So at number 4, we have Friday the 13th Part 3. Now we're on to number 3, Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, I genuinely love this movie. This, you know, 1, 2, and 3 on my list they're what I would say are the great Friday movies. And Part 2 is my third favorite, obviously. And it's because I really care about the characters in this film. I really do. And, you know, again, that's what makes it, that's what brings you in. And when you get emotionally invested in the characters, that's what you're rooting for them. You're not just rooting for them to get slaughtered. And so that what really makes it feel like a movie to me, as opposed to just a slasher flick where you just have a body count. And so that's what I really like about this movie. And it's kind of like it's the first one, but better in every way. It doesn't have the mystery on who the killer is like the first one does, but it's just all the characters are better. It feels like it was better written, better acted, just plain better all around. And of course, this is the introduction of Jason, and he was Sackhead Jason. And while I think Sackhead Jason is one of the least scary of the entire series, I really do. He's and least intimidating. He's actually one of the weaker things about this film is Jason himself. But I like seeing that evolution of the character. I wish more film series would do that. I mean, it almost seems funny to say that like a lot of film series could learn some things from Friday the 13th, but they really could. You know, the way Jason evolved from, you know, being a kid in the first movie to Sackhead Jason in the second one to getting the hockey mask, and then, you know, later becoming like zombie Jason later in the series. Like that's pretty cool character evolution over a franchise. So, and I really respect it for that. And another thing that I really like is that this movie is the first, you know, between 2, 3, and 4, which it's like they take place over the course of a weekend. You know, all the movies are like one after another, and I think that is just amazing. Even though, you know, if this movie takes place on Friday the 13th, that means that, you know, the part 3 is on like Saturday the 14th, and, you know, and then part 4 starts on Saturday the 15th and 16th or whatnot. I don't care, because it just feels so real to have it so close in time like that. And I don't know if they did it on purpose or if it was by accident, but I think it was accidental brilliance, I'll say that. And I wish that more film series would take cues from that. And but some of the things, I mean, I can't really say a whole lot negative about this movie other than what I said about Jason. Jason is actually probably one of the weaker aspects of it. So that's Friday the 13th Part 2. Then at number 2, we're going to go Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Yes, that's right. This is like the MTV Friday the 13th movie. It's everything was big and flashy, but they made a nearly perfect film here. They really did. I like the characters, even the ones that get slaughtered, like all the teenagers. I genuinely, you know, care about them. And, you know, it's the concluding chapter of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. So, it's got Tommy in it, and the final girl, Megan. She's one of the better final girls, you know, 4th or 5th, around there range. But she's, you know, you really care about her. And from the very start of this movie, when they resurrect Jason in the graveyard with the lightning bolt, all the way to the end when he's put in the lake with the chain around his neck with the boulder, I think it's just darn near perfect from start to finish. And it's one of the ones I like to go to the most. I mean, I love the soundtrack with the Alice Cooper songs. It's just the perfect Friday the 13th film. As a matter of fact, the way like Halloween 2018 has like reinvigorated that series by going back to a point earlier in the series and picking up later. If I had any say on where to pick up in the Friday the 13th series, I would say pick up after part 6 and then go from there. I would not go back any further than part 6. Like, don't erase part 6 from canon, but pick up after that and have Jason still in Crystal Lake, you know, hanging there with the chain around his neck, and somehow he gets out and comes back to life. I think that would be a perfect way to go. You know, erase 7 through the end. They could be erased from the franchise, and I would be okay with that. But, you know, just pick up after part 6 and you would have a great starting point. So there we go. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And then number 1, no surprise, Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Now, I know I just said that Jason Lives is like the perfect Jason movie, and it really is. But the final chapter, it does just about everything that Jason Lives does, but just does it a little bit better. It is the beginning of the Tommy Jarvis saga trilogy. So you got introduction of Tommy, and it's Corey Feldman, who, you know, his performance was the best of the 3 actors that portrayed Tommy. I mean, I don't think that can be disputed. And then it's also the end of the, like I said, the 2, 3, and 4 happen over like the same weekend, so it's the end of that, but at the start of the Tommy Jarvis, trilogy. And it's probably the best directed movie of the entire series. This is the movie that, if you can only watch one Friday the 13th movie, this is a good one to pick. You know, if you've never seen a Friday the 13th movie, this is a good one to watch first, even. I mean, because you'll get the whole backstory in the beginning, because I love the opening montage. Even though I said that the one in part 7 is a little bit better, this one has a really good one as well. That'll catch you up on everything that's happened before and get you right going, so you know what's going on. And it's just the perfect Friday the 13th film. And as a matter of fact, if there is one that you could say is a classic in this series, you know, on like the same level as like a Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, which I would say those films are better than this, don't get me wrong, but if there's one that's close, it's The Final Chapter. It is the closest to being a horror classic of this franchise, and I think it's great. And if you haven't seen that movie yet, why are you watching my video? Go watch it. So there you go with number 1, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. So there we go. That is my ranking of the Friday the 13th franchise. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, if you hung around till the end of the video, you know, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I will be talking to you guys again shortly with another one of these videos. So see you guys all again soon, and take care, everybody.